Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Classic Duels. So, my last video I was talking about exams and stuff, and that seemed to have one of my best subscriber to viewer ratios, so I thought I'd talk a bit more about school since y'all seem to like it. So I was thinking, I've gone through lots of chaotic things at school, but I wanted to tell a story that was simultaneously interesting but also relatable. So I was trying to think of some universally horrid experience that most people could relate to, like how exams are something that a lot of people could relate to, which I assume is why people sort of like that video. So I was walking around school thinking, what should I do for this video? When I realized the answer was in front of me the whole time: the school washroom. I mean, everyone can agree that those places are hellholes. No one ever, says, oh yeah, my school washroom, it's, so nice. There's, nothing cursed happening in there. Every other meme I see about school is just about how there are demons living in the school washroom. Of course, there's the universal issue of all the kids vaping in the washrooms, I think everyone can relate to that. No one ever wants to use the washrooms because you immediately just start suffocating. I swear, it's more smoke than oxygen in there. And that's general stuff, but it's so much worse at my school. The drugs, there are actual drug dealers in, all of them. You know what was really chaotic? There was a kid doing straight up cocaine in one of the washrooms. How? Why? I mean, I don't know a lot about drugs, but I'm fairly certain cocaine's a drug that's supposed to make you hyper. Why would, a 15-year-old need to be hyper? I mean, if you're doing drugs in a school washroom, especially something as chaotic as cocaine, you're already probably a pretty crazy person, which means you probably need it the least. Why? There's the general why of just why would you do drugs in a school washroom to begin with, but then there's the why of why cocaine specifically. That just seems like such a weird choice. And moving on from just the drugs that people are doing in there, it's so much more chaotic than that. There are so many stories of just, what people get away with. Someone snuck a straight-up motorcycle into the school washroom and just started driving it around. How did they even do that? How'd they get it through the halls? How'd they even get it in? But I was talking about it with my friends, and they were talking about how there were still tire tracks on the floor. I went to go see it, but when I went in, there was just, a guy passed out on the floor, and the air quality was, well, exactly what you would expect based off of the description I've already given of the school washrooms. So, wasn't very pleasant there. There were just people all laying around coughing and stuff. And while I assume they didn't leave the motorcycle in the washroom, because that's one way to get your vehicle confiscated and immediately, have everything traced back to you, what did get left in one of the washrooms was just a straight-up shopping cart. They just took it from one of the nearby stores and just left it in there. So first of all, they would have had to take it from the store. Then they'd have to push it across the entire sidewalk. And all of this took place around winter, so they would have had to drag it through the snow as well. And I live in Canada, so the snow's pretty bad a lot of the time. And then they'd have to drag it through the school without anyone seeing, so that as well. I'm just trying to imagine being one of the poor janitors, You always dread coming into the school washrooms because they get trashed every day due to no moderation. So, you're always just waiting for the next catastrophe. And, you're going, you're like, okay, what mess are we gonna have here? And then there's just a straight-up shopping cart just sitting there. You're just like, why? And, as much as I feel bad for the janitors, the concept of that story is kind of just objectively funny. I feel bad, but at the same time, that's just so stupid. Why a shopping cart? What store did they steal it from? They already had plenty of reasons to dread the bathrooms. I mean, pretty much every day, at least one of the soap dispensers gets, stolen or dismounted. So, there's always that as well. All of this to say, school washrooms, pretty terrible place. I think everyone's kind of on the same page about that. I wanna talk about one of the strangest teachers I've had. Because, those are more unique stories. Everyone can kind of universally relate to the whole, oh yeah, the bathrooms are garbage. Let me tell y'all a little story of my Photoshop teacher, because this class was not necessarily bad. I ended up with a 95 in it. I wouldn't say he was necessarily a bad teacher, just a really strange guy. First of all, this is less of a complaint about him and more just the curriculum, but for a Photoshop class, we didn't really do much Photoshop with Photoshop outside of, like, drawing. It's like, I don't know, for a Photoshop class, I would have expected Photoshop-related in terms of, like, blending images together and stuff, but it was more or less just a drawing class. And, you know, that was a little weird, but okay, fine. I'm not good at drawing, but they can't really make the curriculum of a class like that based around having god-tier drawing abilities, as it's kind of like gym, where, you know, if someone isn't that active, they can't completely punish their marks, even if they're trying their best. So, you know, it was more of a, if you try really hard, then you should be able to get a pretty good mark, though to get, like, a super high mark, you need to have some level of drawing abilities. The one weird thing about him specifically is that he banned the eraser tool, because he said there are no mistakes, or whatever. He was, I guess he was trying to do the whole Bob Ross thing, or he's like, nothing's a mistake, we work off of what we created. But, no. What I did was very much a mistake. I drew the line poorly. I'm going to erase it and draw it again. It's not like he was monitoring us at all times, so there was nothing he could do about us erasing stuff. He just would tell us a bunch not to. And of course, even if he was, I would just use the paintbrush tool, just set it to white, and then cover up any mistakes anyway. There were loopholes to get past that, so it wasn't super inconvenient, but it was a little weird. But what really made him weird was the fact that he was like a massive conspiracy theorist. Like, he's the kind of guy who's probably raving on to his current class about how aliens are invading Earth because of those weather balloons that got shot down recently. You know, he's like, UFOs, they're all aliens, they've come for us. He was that kind of guy. As well as that, he would constantly just play political videos, like on the projector in class. They weren't really like documentaries or hit pieces on anyone, but he played a few skits making fun of like George Bush and stuff, which was still a little weird for a Photoshop class, but okay. You know, that was a tad strange, but whatever. It didn't really impact our work. He maybe set aside one class to show us that video. My Photoshop class, it was a grade 10-12 split. Mostly grade 10s, but there were a few grade 12s. So I got to see some of the assignments he gave them. And while most of the assignments were pretty normal, they were just like ours, but more advanced, the final assignment he gave them was the funniest thing ever. You see, the final assignment was a thing he called technophobia. And what it basically was, so that he would have the kids make, like, some kind of drawing or whatever that was supposed to convey some kind of message. The problem is the messages were very specific to, like, you know, this says a lot about our society style of messages. In the sense that they were all basically Reddit r/IM14 and this is deep kind of messages. Where they were all basically just like, technology, the phone is killing the book, society. I was talking to a kid who was in his grade 12 class because I kind of ditched his Photoshop class after grade 10, mostly because I accidentally took a different animation class that wasn't Photoshop. But I was talking to this person, and they were basically showing me some of the examples, because they had to do one of the final assignments now. So they were showing me the kind of stuff that he was having to make. And they were all so dumb. One of them was a drawing of Bill Gates using, like, his hand to block out the sun, casting the world into eternal darkness. Another one was an image of a subway with a poster on it that says, by 2024, 5G has killed 72% of the population. And you could tell kids were just phoning it in. I mean, what kind of poster would say, by 2024? Like, if it's a poster on the wall in the subway in 2024, why would it say, by 2024, 5G has killed 72% of the population? Like, that's just sloppy world building. Like, these are all kind of the things that you would see boomers posting to their Facebook about how technology is dooming the world because kids don't know how to read anymore because they're too busy on their social media platforms instead of reading books, even though there's text on their social media platforms that they also have to read. I mean, my teacher was basically just a hybrid between one of those 14-year-old kids that think they know everything about the universe and a really out-of-touch 80-year-old who thinks that the whole world has fallen apart or something. And he wasn't even part of either of those groups. He was like 50 or something. He was just like a really weird hybrid. Like, it's just a weird combination. Anyway, those are just some stories I thought I'd throw into today's video. I got plenty more, so if you enjoyed that, subscribe, because I'm only gonna get better at PvP, editing. I got plenty of more stories, and I'm gonna get better at storytelling as well. So, like, if you like this video, then my future content, you're gonna like it even more. So subscribe and hit an end card, because I've linked my best videos up there.